Today on the show, we talk about what it means to be a good digital citizen. The saints do indeed walk among us. And, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about that with our picks of the week. All this and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. Well, hello. You've hit the play button on the Catholic Underground. We are the podcast cutting through the noise of the digital continent and bring you the topics that matter. It's episode number 428. For those of you who are keeping score, I am Father Chris Decker, a priest of the Diocese of Baton Rouge in Louisiana. And joining me this week, we got Kathleen Lee. She is in Studio B for us. Hey, Kathleen.
Hello.
Also joining us, Olivia Gulino here in Studio A. Are y'all drawing straws for that? Is that how that's working?
I was perfectly willing to go into the hole today, and Kathleen graciously fell on that grenade. So.
But thankfully, Kathleen is very kind in making,
She even brought
night cheese.
She brought us night cheese.
Truth.
Yeah, that's
She's
true.
our queen.
Speaking of night cheese, we've also got Father Ryan Humphries, who's a priest of the Diocese of Alexandria. He's a pastor up in northeastern Louisiana at St. Edward the Confessor Parish. Hey, Father Ryan.
Hey, world, how are you?
Yeah. I presume the world is fine. At least in the chat room, it looks like everybody is operating within standard parameters, which is good. Yeah. Today is, when we're coming on the air, is a day that I always remember to forget to remember, because on October the 5th, it's the feast of St. Francis of Assisi, right? That's
October
right.
4th.
October 4th.
Yeah.
October 4th. October 5th is always the dedication of the Abbey Church. So where Father Ryan and I went to college, it's the dedication of the Abbey Church. And so we always know that anytime St. Francis' feast day is coming around, it's going to get bumped because the Abbey Church feast day, comes around. So yeah. So for those of you who are monks who somehow have a copy of our show, well, we're glad that you're listening somehow, and happy feast day to you. All right. Well, there is a saint that we have been talking about, or an almost saint that we've been talking about for quite a while now, and that is Blessed Carlo Acutis.
Yeah.
And he's venerable now, but he will be
TBD.
He will be blessed in just a little over a week's time from the time that we are here speaking with you. And if you want to know about somebody and what they're really like, you just have to ask their mom.
I know. Have you seen that picture of him? Well, okay, so like they uncovered his tomb, right, for veneration, and like there's a picture of his mom standing in front of his tomb, and she's not an old lady, like, which I don't know, like, there's nothing saying that she should be an old lady, but like you'd think someone's standing in front of a saint's tomb and like she's the saint's mother, or like the soon to be beatified's mother, that like she might be a little bit gray, but she's not. She's so young because he was so young.
I was going to say, well, Carlo, I guess we should tell you a little bit about him. Carlo was a youngin'. He died at 15 from leukemia. But before that happened, a lot of things were happening in his life. And his mom always said, like, I don't know how he knew who Jesus was. I have no idea. Because at that time, they weren't going to church. And yet, she said, every time we would drive by the church, Carlo would always want to get out. He would always want to go into the church.
So incredible.
And that's, one of the things that we say is that we recognize that the gift of faith is itself given directly by God at our baptism. And it manifests in different ways, in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And this perhaps is one of those ways, I suppose.
Yeah. I love his story because I can't get over the fact that he was born in 1991.
Makes you feel a little old, yeah.
I mean, a little bit, but also like, we say that like we're called to be saints. Like the saints are like sanctity starts here on earth, and like the communion of saints is here and now as well as in heaven. We say these things, we mean these things, but then you look at a saint's, kind of, I don't know, their information on their baseball card, and you see that like his birthday was in 1991. You're like, I was born in 1992. Like my fiance was born in 1991. I'm like, you're the same age as a saint. Like,
yeah.
And I think about like I went to Italy around this time that he would have been like alive, and I'm like, would I have walked in the same place as him?
Yeah.
Like I just think that's crazy. That obviously that's the case for a lot of different saints, but like someone so modern, someone so real and like tangible for us.
That's right. And on his website, or the website that that's handling his cause for canonization, you can download what effectively are like his family photos.
Yeah.
And so
which are so cute.
And they're very cute. And so, I mean, right behind Olivia on her monitor is a picture of Carlo on a soccer team, and a picture of Carlo skiing slaloms. Yeah. And then you know, there's one I don't know if we can.
I love the one.
Can't quite see it behind me, but Carlo is wearing a Spider-Man costume for Halloween.
I love that.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is we often forget that the saints they're apart from us, but they're one of us. You know?
Well, and like, I find it like really particularly beautiful because it was like so natural. Like you read about like parts of his life, and he was just lived authentically. Yeah. But like part of that authenticity was his love for God, and it was just unashamed and just natural. And like some of the things that you'll read about, like his mom saying, are like, you know, after he made his first communion, he would walk himself to mass because they weren't, you know, practicing Catholic family. So he would walk himself through the streets of Milan to go to mass. Yep. And I imagine that's kind of like a mini pilgrimage for an 8-year-old, because like his gate's not very long, you know. The church probably not that far away, but steps. But I mean, he's going by himself into like away from his family into the presence of God, you know, and but he's choosing to make that journey because out of his love for God, you know. That's right. And then even like his mom said like he would make kind of like restrictions or rules for himself, like when it came to playing video games. Like he played video games, but he said he only gave himself like an hour a week to play video games. And
that's where he kind of mixes into what we're talking about in this episode, is that but before he died, Blessed Carlo, because he died in 2006. Well, Father, you and I remember what the digital world was like in 2006. It was just kind of coming to the fore, and all of a sudden the iPhone was about to be a thing. I don't know if Carlo would have ever known. I don't think he ever knew what the iPhone, because that didn't come out to 2007. But the notion that the digital continent, as we call it, was essentially being born in these early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, DSL was a thing. Of course, we remember traveling to Italy in 2007, and there was no connectivity anywhere. But at least the internet was starting to be a thing. Yeah. You know, and certainly he would have experienced it at the schoolhouse, even if he hadn't experienced it at home. You know, so I mean, take the digital continent. The idea of interacting with people online, of course, goes back to BBSs, but it would have been something that he would have been able to interact with, at least in a limited way. And so that's an incredible thing. I mean, you know, this is one of the first saints to have stepped onto that digital content.
That's right. And in so doing, he knew that that technology and the internet, even at 14, 15 years old, he knew that it could be a very dangerous place, because even from the world of the bulletin boards, of the BBS services, it's a place where you can access things that are not of God, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's absolute just pornography, or whether it's things that are, I mean, there are people that trade spells back and forth and all sorts of satanic stuff on the internet. And so even Carlo knew that the internet comes with it not only a great potential, but a great responsibility. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things his mom talks about is, you know, I think that what he wanted to do was to be a young person, to evangelize, but to do so through the gift of temperance, the spiritual gift of temperance. And if you think about it, that's one of the things that's missing in our society today, is that particular virtue of temperance. I would imagine that Kathleen, you know, that even in the lives of students, temperance is one of those things that doesn't always get a lot of play.
Oh yeah, not at all. If it's in front of your face, they're on it. I can't say how many times a day I have to say, put away your iPad, put away your iPad for the 5th time, put away your iPad. You know, there is no, you know, trying to teach them that, and try to teach them, you know, when should we use it? And just because we can use it doesn't mean that we should. Right. Are we relying so heavily on this? And, you know, thankfully I've had some really good administrations who say, you know, look, this is a tool. Yeah. You know, I've also had, you know, been places where they say, wherever you can use this, you should use it. And it's like, no. Right. You know, like if my kids aren't discussing because they're YouTubing, you know, then we're not going to use it. And so prudence and temperance and, you know, everything that has to come along with the responsibility of technology is very difficult to teach young people, because they're not getting they're not getting it a lot of places where somebody says, you know, hey, this is, let's use this wisely. Let's use this sporadically even. It's, let's do everything online.
One of the things I find very interesting is that soon-to-be blessed Carlo figured out that we have to have another app on our devices to tell us that always spending time scrolling, or even worse, doom scrolling, as they call it nowadays, you know, just scrolling to find whatever bad news I can, having to get a report thrust back at me to say, you know, this is what you did. The gift of temperance, that spiritual gift and that virtue, allow us to put the stop in place before it happens. And I think sometimes we forget that temperance itself is a gift. It's a gift that's given to us by the Holy Spirit. And then it's one of those things that we can begin to act on, you know, till it becomes a lived virtue.
Well, and I mean, I think of excuse me, Joseph Pieper's. He wrote a book on he wrote 2 books on all the cardinal and the theological virtues. But the one on the cardinal virtues, he talks about temperance because it's one of those virtues, and in it he defines it as selfless self-preservation. And that has stuck with me ever since I read that.
Selfless self-preservation.
Yeah, I'm not being self-referential or conceited to the point where I'm navel gazing, you know, but out of love for myself, I'm going to preserve myself, but I'm going to do it to the point of self-forgetfulness. It's almost paradoxical.
It reminds me of what St. Paul talks about almost every time that he speaks to the Philippians. He's if you're going to be an imitator of Christ, imitate me because I'm trying my darndest to be an imitator of Christ. And so if you're stepping through me as a vehicle to get to the Lord, to see how I'm trying to live, then do that.
Well, and what's beautiful about Carlo and his the accounts of his life are that he's living virtue, even though he might not have even been able to define what that is or tell you, yes, I know that I'm trying to achieve virtue as the mean relative to the person. No, he probably couldn't do that. But I think about his life and kind of that ease with which he lived a life of virtue, and that's something that the hardcore saints have to struggle for. Because I mean, Kathleen was saying, the first step in virtue is just discipline, right? And if you have to have a monitor on your phone or one of those apps that only lets you be on Twitter for 10 minutes a day, that's a discipline, right? And it's good. But eventually our virtue has to come out of that discipline phase, right? We have to be able to kind of work those muscles out so that we can do it on our own. And then the third kind of step of that is doing it with ease, right? It's not arduous anymore. It's easy even if there's darkness, right? Like Mother Teresa experienced. It just flows naturally from their person. And he achieved that so young, even in those awkward middle school years.
Yeah, can you imagine? I can't imagine dying in the midst of my teens and having developed a life plan that is, and I quote, to always be close to Jesus, that's my life plan, unquote.
Yeah.
I don't know at 13, 14, 15, or maybe even 16, maybe 16, but 13 through 15, I don't know if I could have articulated that. I really don't. Yeah. I don't know.
I have a parish that's named after Saint Therese. So we celebrated our parish feast day today. And the readings for Saint Therese today were, be like a child. You know, the Lord brought the child into its midst. And I know that when I've done youth ministry to little kids, 8, 9, 10, some of them, the more precocious among them, will say, oh, I've got a life plan, and my life plan is to be a saint, go to heaven with Jesus. And, that's a precocious kid, but you kind of get the idea that Carlo may have been that kind of precocious kid. And then, thanks be to God, the Lord takes him before he has a chance to lose that childlike innocence. Because I know we had a couple of youngins at one of my previous parishes who kind of became hangers-on to the youth group, even though they were a little too young. And they just wanted to know the Lord. And, by the time you get to be 15, 16 and puberty and the real life and all the other stuff starts coming at you, you lose that childlikeness and it becomes so much more difficult, to be, that kind of, that sense of all I want to do is love Jesus and that's enough. I don't need to succeed or I don't need to get this SAT score. I just need to love Jesus and that will do,
That's
kind of a gift that he never lost that.
That's true. It really is. And I think something that's really beautiful about this story too is his witness, as with so many of the young saints. Saint Therese is one of those that I think about too, is that in their quest to become saints, we just kind of going through the day by day, other people are drawn into their wake.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about like his mom, who essentially said, you know, he was like a little savior to me because he pointed me to Jesus. Mm-hmm. And what a beautiful thing. I mean, to be able to have your parents say, my child led me to the Lord because I didn't know him.
Yeah.
You know, that's what a beautiful gift to every parent, even if the parent doesn't realize it at the time. And I look at, perhaps I'm going to be a little too referential about the world in which we live today, but I see from my perch, you know, in a parish, I see children bringing their parents to Jesus. Because there are 2 or 3 generations now of the nuns, right? Yeah. The ones who don't believe anything. We like to call them millennials or this, that, and the other, but they did not receive the gospel. Mm-hmm. And so now it is their children who are somehow, I think by a direct action of the Holy Spirit, active in their life. Like I did a baptism a couple of years ago for some kids who were 7 years old, and I fully initiated them, which is of course what the law of the church tells us to do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the day that they were confirmed, I saw a maturity of faith in them that caught on to other members of my parish family. And there is, I mean, everything in me goes, that is the Holy Spirit at work. Yeah. You know, drawing people into the Spirit's tether, into the Spirit's that kind of that wake of the boat that's passing by. You know. Oh yeah. But that being said, Father, we have to say that. You can't just spend time around a saint and become one. You actually have to want it for yourself, right?
No, you really do. I mean, I think that the idea of being around a saint is a big deal. But of course, you do have to take the reins at some point. Yeah. And like you said, I think one of the big challenges for that is that so few of our young people and so few of our adults have been adequately catechized. You know, I got a message on Reddit today from a young man who was just weighed down with anxiety about the fact that he was experiencing temptation. Mm-hmm. And I was like, my man, listen, there's a distinction between sin and temptation. Yeah. You know, and after our kind of back and forth, he was completely blown away because, you know, he was carrying this huge weight of thinking that he was displeasing the Lord because of bad catechesis. I mean, and you know, God knows what would have happened had he had to carry this longer and then said, you know what, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to put up with all this guilt and all this garbage. And, you know, it's just, if I go to hell, I go to hell, but it's just easier to live my life without this. You know, and there's so many people, I think, who carry around faux burden because of bad catechesis, you know, who leave the church because of bad catechesis, who say the church's teaching is absurd because of bad catechesis. And so, I mean, I think that's a big part of what someone like Carlo brings to the party is you say, you know, I'm living the faith, you know, maybe you should look into the faith and understand it more deeply rather than just kind of riding along or going with the flow.
That's right. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about perhaps one of Venerable Carlo's greatest additions to the church is he believed, once he kind of caught on, he's like, I'm all in for you, Lord. He surmised that people would come to know Jesus if they knew what a gift we had in the Eucharist. Yeah. And it kind of along the lines of what we've just been talking about. And so he was one of the first ones in the kind of the realm of Isidore of Seville. He began to catalog all the Eucharistic miracles. Mm-hmm. And so now even today, there is a Eucharistic miracle exhibit that travels around. Yeah. And I didn't realize it at first. That's him. That's all of his information and his data. And so again, you have somebody who falls in love with the Lord, who looks at the technology that is available to them in the day, and then says, I'm going to use this to try to evangelize. And that is truly evangelism, right? It's saying, I'm going to try to bring people to the Lord by this means. Mm-hmm. And even though he only used the internet once, 1 hour every week, he was able to get all of this work done. Yeah. The saints typically know how to get a lot of work done in a little bit of time.
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah. And speaking a little bit of a time, I guess we should take the moment to remind you that we are the Catholic Underground. Alrighty, yeah, we are the Catholic Underground, and we are online most of the time at CatholicUnderground.tv. or you can download our podcasts on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere fine podcasts are served. I'm Father Chris, joined, as always, by Olivia Gulino, who's here in studio with me, Studio A. Over in Studio B, we've got Kathleen. Hey, Kathleen.
Hey, still here.
still here. And then Father Ryan is joining us in Studio, C.
Studio Central Louisiana.
Yeah.
Delta 9. Delta.
Studio Delta 9. That's right. Yeah. We'll just assign it a Greek name. Why not? Yeah. So if you've been joining us, we've been talking about soon-to-be blessed Carlo Acutis, and we are now kind of stirring in what he was able to bring about in the midst of what we're called to do, and that's to be good digital citizens. I mean, who would have thought that we would be now in the midst of a world where we live almost, I don't know, how many hours a day would you say you live online? I mean, you're both teachers, Kathleen and Olivia.
Yeah.
So you live a great deal of your life online now.
Can that not count though? Because that makes me sad to think about. Sometimes I literally think about like, oh, I got a lot of work done today, and then I think about like the physics of it, and like what I did was I sat at a computer all day. Yeah. I got work done inside the computer, but like my functional life was like me in a chair. Yeah. And that makes me very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I'm on 3 devices right now. Yeah. I have a desktop that monitors the screens of the kids that are in my classroom. I have a iPad that my kids who aren't in the classroom zoom in on. And then I have my actual computer, like my laptop, where I teach from, I project from, and then I check my email, what seems like every 20 minutes to see what has changed in the world of whatever. And I'm like,
what
I can't.
Fresh Hades awaits me this 20 minutes. Yeah.
I'm like, so I mean, I would multiply that 90-minute classes, 3 90-minute classes times 3 screens. I mean, like 27 hours a day, I think.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you're almost living a Martian day online every day. Yeah, that's right. And Father, I know that you and we spend a good bit of our time in front of a screen as well, because that's part of priesthood now today in a weird way is spent online.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's one of the questions I'm asking myself, because I'm fortunate enough to be in a smaller parish where, other than the live streams of Mass and the usual emailing and stuff you have to do, I'm really trying to reduce my digital footprint a little bit. Yeah. Just as a function of my own sanity. Yeah. But I mean, it's, I feel very much like Kathleen, because I'm looking at not 1 but 4 screens right now, and I'm feeling like, this is a lot of digital juice flying at me.
That's right.
The air.
And yet we recognize as Catholics that we have a really important part to play, because all the technologies that are open to us are in themselves gifts. The fact that human reason can bring about the biddling and booping of ones and zeros, and to make it work for something greater than ourselves, that's a gift. And so we actually have something to bring to the party, and we as Catholics would recognize this as a place where the Lord can and must dwell. And Father Ryan, you and I say it so often now we probably forget that the digital continent is that place, right? That's the place that I think it was Pope Benedict XVI that might have coined the phrase.
It was. He wrote a message for World Communication Day, and he said, listen, there's a digital continent that parallels physical nation states, and the reality is that we have to have someone there, just like we've got to have boots on the ground in Australia, and boots on the ground in Canada, and boots on the ground in Poughkeepsie. We have to have boots on the ground on the digital continent, and that means that we kind of have to go everywhere. If the Lord is going to go to the ends of the earth, then we have to go to the ends of the digital earth as well. And so he painted a picture of a handful of evangelization tools. And in fact, if I recall properly, the first Catholicon that we did umpteen years ago was based on exactly this theme. Yeah.
That's right. And the notion that reflecting on new technology and our responsibility and even encouragement to use it, Pope Benedict liked to talk about promoting a culture of respect, dialogue, and friendship, and how so much of what we, not just as people are called to do, but most especially as Christians are called to do, is to promote culture that is oriented towards life. life-giving, right, and not life-taking.
Yeah.
Because so much of culture, especially now, is oriented towards kind of the taking of life and the selfishness of life, the opposite of temperance, as we were talking about earlier, right? Just complete indulgence. And yet to truly understand respect and dialogue and friendship in that mode that comes to us from Christ is really, really important. Yeah. So that's all of that involves a kind of a love and a responsibility, as John Paul II would have said. And so
nice
that,
link, yeah.
Yeah, and so that there are all these components to kind of staking your claim on the digital continent, and it's not just a personal component, because I think oftentimes we think about that, right? Is that it's just a personal thing.
Yeah. Well, I think some people think of it like if it's truly a continent, well then like my presence on the internet is like manifest destiny. Like I gotta get there before someone else does.
Yeah.
And I gotta like stake my claim no matter who I hurt,
right.
And it's like that's an attitude that doesn't have like true dialogue. Like John Paul II made that distinction of like dialogue as dialogos. Like it is the between the words, right?
Yeah.
But between the persons, right? Like as the logos lives in you and in me, that's what what draws us together in this conversation. And he was talking about ecumenism when he said that, but like it applies in every situation. Every person that you talk to has the logos, the image of God in them. And so like that's what you're meeting. It's not like a zero-sum game where like I got to get there before someone else does.
And yet that seems to be what most comment boxes are like today, right?
Or I got to defeat someone before they defeat me.
And I think that's the supernatural component of this, is that we as certainly as Catholics recognize that we are attempting to bring the Lord along with us, right? It's kind of like the digital road to Emmaus, as he is walking along even in the midst of the people that we're talking to online. And so we have the responsibility to say there's more to this than just me talking to you.
Yeah.
But the direction of true dialogue is aiming towards God.
Yeah.
Dialogue that doesn't have an end,
other
than just to talk, isn't really dialogue.
Well, because it's got to mean something. Like if you want to just speak into the void, well, then that's Nietzscheanism. Like that's fatalism. That means that like my words, my feelings don't mean anything, and I'm just speaking into the void. And like, no, it's got to mean something. It's got to have gravitas.
That's right. And we are not speaking into the void, but we'll be back after this. You're watching the Catholic Underground and listening to it as well. Stay right there. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Oh yeah, you are listening to, you are watching the Catholic Underground. I am Father Chris Decker. I wish I were surfing. This, the ukulele music always makes me think of being somewhere with a nice tropical cocktail and perhaps thinking about throwing myself into the surf, in a reasonable way.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a moderate, virtuous
way.
In
a moderate, virtuous way.
Moderately virtuous.
Moderately virtuous, yeah. The moderately virtuous are joining us, as a matter of fact, while I'm kind of going off on a tangent in my head here that you don't know anything about. I'm Father Chris, joined by Olivia Gulino. Also, Kathleen Lee is in Studio B, and Father Ryan is on Space Station Delta 6 or 9. I don't know. You turn it upside down. I can't tell. Yeah. Anyway,
whichever one you like.
Whichever one you like. So yeah,
just as you like. Yeah.
We've been talking about our responsibility on the digital continent. We talked about soon-to-be blessed Carlo Acutis, and so many of the things that are going on here, where there is a civic component, a personal component, a religious component to being online, and it's not just simply I have a connection, therefore I must use it.
Yeah. But
the connection that I have, I need to use properly. And right before the break, we were talking about the notion of true dialogue, that it has to mean something. Otherwise, it's not dialogue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
So, John Carapi, had a wonderful phrase when he was teaching the catechism back in like 96.
Yeah.
He did this big video catechism, and he started off with this big, deep voice, and it says, Jesus didn't say, count my sheep. He said, feed my sheep. So that's what I'm going to do. Because people said they won't show up. But I mean, nowadays, it feels like on social media that all we're doing is counting our sheep. You know, I've got so many followers, so many hearts, so many retweets, so many likes. And it's easy, like Olivia was saying, just to speak into the void. And the only payoff, it's not souls, it's not people listening, it's just people who are willing to click that stupid thumbs up. And that gives me a microscopic burst of adrenaline that makes me feel like somebody loves me. Right. And, you know, that's pretty far away from bringing people to Jesus Christ.
Well, again, and I think that plays into the narcissistic nature of the internet. We tend to kind of, you ever, when you were a kid and you went on television, your local, you know, CBS affiliate for whatever morning show program, and you're supposed to look into the camera and wave, but everybody always looks into the monitor and waves they can see themselves waving at, you know, at the camera. And I think that's a lot of what we do on the internet nowadays is it becomes kind of this, I heard the phrase earlier, kind of this navel gazing online. So I can watch myself interacting with people so that I can watch them interacting with me, which is, again, me looking at myself saying, I did this.
But what's so interesting, and like, I want to know what Kathleen thinks about this, because like, I find that with like my students, or even just with like young people in general, like they want to be heard and they want to be like understood, but they don't really want to be perceived. I was just talking with a friend about this. Like, you know, if I have to have a student who's like remoting in from home and I like put them up on the screen so that everyone in class can see them and there's still some interaction, you know, like once I say like, hey, you're on the big screen, they just all of a sudden like start to hide, you know? And it's like this fear of being perceived, even though like that's what they're constantly doing is like tweeting or snapping someone or sending a picture or whatever. I don't know. Kathleen, what do you think? Like, do you see that?
Yeah, I think I must have for a long time that kids that, you know, young people, and I venture to say adults as well. Like everybody wants to be special, but we try our darndest to fit in.
Yeah.
And it's like, and to be like everybody else.
And to craft the way in which we're perceived.
Right.
That's the thing.
Part of it.
Yeah.
It's almost, I mean, that's the book of Genesis, isn't it? Adam and Eve made their choice, right? It was a poor choice, but they still tried to make themselves presentable in their own way, you know? First of all, by hiding, and then by saying, well, if we've got to come out into the midst of you, God, we're gonna cover ourselves because there was shame that was involved. And it's really interesting that we see this kind of lived out online nowadays too. We often say that the true measure of the virtue of a man or woman is whether or not they practice their Christianity in the dark. You know, when the cameras are off, when I'm not tweeting, when nobody is thumbs upping me, am I still living for a purpose that is greater than myself?
Yeah.
And I think maybe Father Ryan, that's the big question that we're asking. We're saying, what is it to be a good digital citizen? I think oddly enough, it starts with me saying that I am not on the internet just for myself. You know,
I mean, it just like ordinary Christianity begins with God is God and I am not.
Yeah.
I think any real evangelization, and by which I don't mean, you know, being an apologist on the internet or you know, just being a Christian that lives in a way which shows forth the fact that the Lord Jesus the lives in my heart.
Yeah.
You know, that begins with the acknowledgement that it's not about me. And we all have that kind of radar, right? We all see somebody, and within 5 seconds on YouTube, we know whether this is going to be a thumbs up or thumbs down. We all go to Mass, and if it's a priest we've never seen before, it doesn't take long for us to go, this is Father all about me, or this is Father all about Jesus. You know, I mean, it's just the nature of our ability to read authenticity.
Yeah.
And in the culture nowadays, which is authenticity is really the only currency that means much.
Yeah.
You know, we've really got to be putting that question you raised before anything. Is it about me or is it not? And, you know, is it about God or is it not?
Well, and even I feel like when it comes down to perception, like you could be, the most authentic person lived in real life and online, but someone will always find a problem with it.
Yeah,
someone will always have a bone to pick with it. So it's like part of your authenticity, I feel like, has to be like a strong backbone or like the ability to mute a comment notification, like just so that you don't have to like kind of risk going into despair because this person misconstrued what you said or who you are. Just because there are always going to be those little like vultures looking out for that. But yeah, because like if it was just that simple of like, oh, I'm just going to be an authentic person, then like I think we'd see a lot less conflict. But there's sometimes where like I can be the most genuine, authentic person ever, and someone is still going to find a way to kick me.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true. I had a random tweet go viral about, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, and it got 1,200 or 1,400 likes. And the trolls came out of the woodwork, and I thought that I was a fairly stable, human being, and it shredded me. It was a really miserable week. And it's even when you have a sense of like you're living your faith, you're right, Kathleen. It's really, Olivia should say, it's really painful. To be challenged. That was the first time I was just saying, I'm just going to block, willy-nilly. Anybody who's obnoxious, it's just not worth the energy, just block them.
Yeah.
But you're right, that's a big challenge. Authenticity isn't enough.
Well, and especially because like if you're being authentic, it probably means you're also being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And vulnerability means that like there's some kind of like openness, like some kind of like flesh that has the skin kind of like open, you know what I mean? Like, not to be gross, but like, so, and you're doing that in the sense of like, this is who I truly am. This is maybe something I'm struggling with, whatever. And someone's going to find some salt and throw it in there. And like, it is going to like really hurt. And like the tendency could be to just be like, well, I'll just never do it again.
Right.
That one and done, never going to do it again. In fact, I might even be less vulnerable in my daily life with other people.
Yeah.
And like, so I think that nowadays, I don't know, I'm on Twitter, so this is like all stuff that I'm seeing on Twitter all the time. And I feel like the temptation is to like shrivel up like little like daisies, or to just like go into the dark and stay there. So like, I feel like the fortitude has to be, yes, in the like the act itself, like I'm going to post this thing because I believe in it, or I feel like people need to hear this. But also like in the brace back, like waiting for the blowback of the shotgun or something, like waiting for that because it's going to be painful maybe.
Yeah, it's funny. A couple of weeks ago, I mean, with the Mass being kind of necessarily shortened just because there is not a whole lot of music and that sort of thing, my homilies on Sunday tend to go maybe 10 to 15 minutes, So I give a little more time on Sundays because this is the one barrel of the shotgun I've got, to give you the catechism and to give you the Word of God, right, and to break it open. And so we've been streaming Mass now for what seems like forever. And I was unprepared for just a random comment. Father, Mass was great, but homily was too long. And I'm thinking to myself, 1, 2, 3. It couldn't have been more than there was nothing too long.
Yeah.
And I was shredded for a good 2 days. And finally, I had to say, okay, did I preach the word? Did I preach it well? Do I stand by the homily that I gave? Yes. Okay, I've got to get on with my life.
Yeah.
And to be willing to go and be vulnerable again. And I think about, our Lord. We clean up the image, but our Lord was naked before the public. He was completely open to shame, but he did not pull himself down off of the cross because hanging upon the cross for our salvation was worth it. And I think sometimes whenever we present the truth, we have to be willing, in a sense, to be crucified in the public square. There were many trolls that were spitting on our Lord, not to put myself in the place of the Messiah, etc. But whenever we say this is true, and I am willing to stand by it because my belief in Jesus Christ stands with this view, then you've got to be ready and willing, I suppose.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's like incorrect or inappropriate to say that like you have to kind of be willing to be Christ-like even in that, because like Twitter doesn't have a different God than I do. Like it's not a different kind of world. And it's same with like any any and all of the internet. Like, there's not a different deity that controls the internet or like has sovereignty over the internet, and like
regardless of what people think.
Yeah, exactly. Or like much worse, I don't become a deity when I go on the internet. You know,
right.
like especially if I hide behind some kind of anonymity. Like that can be maybe a catalyst into me thinking there's no rules, there's no consequences, I'll do whatever I want. But like that's not the case. Reality is reality is reality. And so like whether it's online or it's virtual, God is still God, and which means that sometimes we're going to have like a little small martyrdom like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I guess one of the things that we could do is talk about some of the things that are going on, because we talk about Catholics staking our claim on the digital continent and being present there. And I know, Father, one of the ways that you're present, and I don't even know if I have the moxie to dive into, is you've actually taken to Reddit. And
oh, yeah.
I've only visited Reddit a couple of times as a tourist, but so there's like r/Catholicism. R is like the Reddit channel, right? And then,
right, so it's like reddit.com/r/whatever. You have, I mean, everything. You have everything from birds with arms, which are just birds that have photoshopped arms on them, to
which is weird and hilarious.
Cats are liquid, you know, where you have pictures of cats that have formed themselves into loaves or other things. But you have r/Catholic, which is generally more of an anti-Catholic thing. It's becoming overwhelmed with practicing Catholics. You have r/Catholicism, which is generally a pretty good place to ask questions and to read articles and to get a good news feed. And then you have r/AskAPriest, where people are just asking honest questions. You know, I'm in RCAA. You know, I'm gay. What do I do about that? Or, you know, I'm wondering about whether or not cats go to heaven. You know, I mean, it's a free for all, and it's a place where you have some intense trolling, but at the same time, you've got a lot of people from all over the world. Yeah, it's like the 5th or 6th most visited website on the internet. You know, so you have a lot of people from all over the world who are genuinely asking honest questions. I mean, and just in the last week or two, I've answered questions from a Muslim, from someone who's an RCIA, from some young people who are trying to figure out how to live their life, asking questions about confession and what if you desecrated the Eucharist as part of a prank when you were younger? Do I need to, ask for? Can I just go to absolution, or do I need to actually get that penalty lifted? Because now I see there's a lot of cases in the excommunication associated with it. I mean, it's a broad swath of questions. Wow. And it's fascinating reading, and I don't even think need an account to read. You can just go to reddit.com/askapriest, and there you go. Yeah, so it's interesting.
And so that's just one of the many ways. But I know that certainly as priests, and probably you guys as teachers, you have people that ask you questions on live streaming. Of course, everybody now after the COVID crisis, it's really cool to see my parishioners praying the rosary on their live stream. It's really cool to see them doing devotional activities and doing prayer groups and things like that. That's really, really cool. And one of the things that I have been, kind of like you, Father Ryan, been thinking about is limiting my time online. And now that soon-to-be Blessed Carlo was an advocate of that, I'm trying to figure out how I can do that too, you know, and what that looks like as well. And then, I don't know, Kathleen, have you ever considered just completely deleting all of your accounts? And
I have, but I'm not brave enough. The way that I receive love, so my love language that I receive is words of affirmation.
Oh yeah.
And it as devastating as it is to normal people, it can pretty much floor me sometimes. And so there are definitely times when, like, I've taken my work email off my phone because I work from a certain time to a certain time.
Yeah.
And and because we are so connected.
Yep.
We feel like, and I've been having to teach my students and their parents that I am not available 24/7. I have when I say this to my students, I'm like, I have a life that doesn't revolve around answering your email about a question that I already answered 8 times in class, and I made that. And one of the greatest things was I made that very clear this year to parents and adults. And for me, social media, I'm more addicted to it than I would like to say. And so I haven't. Yeah. I've gotten off of a few, but like to delete Facebook or to go on, on hiatus, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, that was one of the greatest things I said this year was After 5 o'clock, I'm not going to answer your email. And then if it's on the weekend, you can forget it. It's not, like, so sorry. And they've gotten a little, had to get a little used to it, but I find that there weren't that many people that were like, well, how dare you?
Yeah. Well, and that's a difference between just completely deleting and limiting. And I know I have deleted like the Facebook app and the Messenger app just because I can't handle the volume of things that come at me.
Right.
And so I do have to just kind of make the volume. But then because I do drawings and things like that, we'll talk about that in a second. But because I use Instagram and that sort of thing, to have the integration, to have it post everywhere, I have to have the Facebook app on my phone. So I found, and I'm telling my secret, I found that if I just kind of put it like several layers deep in my phone, I forget about it.
Yeah. If it's not like,
I find that like I have staring me in the face.
I have like muscle memory, so like if I move apps around,
swipe,
I'll find myself just like my thumbs are just doing things, and I'll find myself in an app, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So like,
how did I get here? Yeah.
That's a problem. Even if I like just took it off the little like desktop, because like Android, I can have like all of my apps like they're all in like a cache, but then I can have them on my desktop, whatever. Anyway, if I took them off there, I wouldn't scroll for them as much because I'm like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Maybe like let my laziness work for me.
I've had to interrupt my muscle memory for that very same reason.
I've also deliberately turned off notifications.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I get a little red bubble on, I'm like, I'm gonna go check it right now. Yeah. But like, I don't want that. Don't push that in my face.
Father Ryan, you're one of those too. You've turned off your notification bubbles.
Yeah, I try to remove as many apps as I can. I try to do as much things through the website as I can, because if that little red bubble's there, I can't breathe. I can't offer mass. I can't do anything, so that freaking bubble is not there anymore.
I kind of feel that way. Yeah. If I have things I can't resolve, then or like haven't resolved yet on my notification screen. Yeah.
It's really interesting that all
of
the
bubble apps have to be on page 2 of my phone. I can't.
It's interesting that what we've talked about for almost an entire hour has to do with being temperate.
That's true.
It really is about saying, Lord, please give me the gift of temperance so that I can choose wisely how to preserve my own life so that I can be present, truly present to others.
Let me ask a question then, because this is something that I've been thinking about. I even had some of my students read an article about this. So, all right, so if we're supposed to be temperate at all times and in all places, but also when it comes to online, like that's a specific place of evangelization. Like I'm supposed to be living a gospel-driven life. Yeah. There, as well as always, but like especially there. Can you do that and also be anonymous?
I don't think so. Just kind of sight unseen. I don't think so, because it requires a person-to-person contact, and part of that true person-to-person contact involves the vulnerability of you knowing who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine like it would be the same as if I were trying to teach a class, and they didn't know who I was. Like I'm taking an online class right now. I know who my teacher is, but I don't have even that's difficult to engage and to not really invest in what he's saying, because it's a grad level theology course. So I'm pretty much there, but I can imagine if it were some other course, like if I didn't know who that teacher was, I wouldn't really invest in what they were saying.
I know as a priest, there have been times where people who do not know me, other than the fact that Father is in front of my name, they'll ask me a question. And there is some value to maybe me not knowing the person, being able to be perhaps hyper objective in that sense. But even still, they know that I'm a priest. So, I mean, I don't know if it's quite the same thing.
Well, then, and I wonder, like, kind of based off that, if like, maybe is there a certain place where anonymity can serve someone, like maybe a place like Reddit? Because
that sounds like a Father Ryan question.
Because, and I'm literally just like working through like thought experiments right now, but like because someone might see a picture.
But that's really
of your
what
profile.
The confessional is, isn't it? Really?
Well, yeah, that's true. It's anonymity, unless I mean the priest might remember your voice, but give him 5 minutes, he's gonna forget. Yeah,
I never do.
Because I'm just wondering, like, if someone sees your profile picture and it's you with a collar on, and they see Father Chris Decker on platforms where you can actually put that. Yeah. And there's automatically a certain kind of like trust there, or a certain kind of whatever response there.
Right.
Just like, someone might find me on Twitter and like read my little bio and be like, I'm going to trust her, I'm going to hate her.
Mm-hmm.
Like we kind of decide what boxes people are going to fit in.
Because of how they reveal themselves.
Right. So I wonder if anonymity could, I'm literally just thinking, but like if anonymity could serve dialogue in a certain sense, if like people didn't already have preconceived notions about me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Based on what I look like, what my job is, whatever.
There's a philosophical distinction between anonymity in the sense of not having any idea and existing kind of, as two avatars without any meaningful distinction, and then the idea of you know that I'm a priest, but you have no idea what my name is.
Yeah.
So like Reddit people know me as my username, my handle, which has nothing to do with my legal name. And so there is a sense of anonymity that's there, but they still, it's not like I'm not me. I simply don't use my name or defining characteristics.
Right.
And so there is a certain level of, like, I don't know who Sparky Flame is, but Sparky Flame is another priest. And there's another guy named, it's like Chalcedon Warrior or something like this. I mean, there is a certain amount of anonymity that exists in not knowing, not being able to connect that this person is Father Bob, Swaggart or whatever. But there is also a fundamentally different thing, I think, that exists in the confessional. And there's a philosophical thing here, because the best confession I ever had in my life was some priest I've never met before in Fatima, and I've never seen him again. And it was transformative. And the only thing I knew about him is that he was a priest. So, there's a lot of layers there, way more, I think, than we could talk about here. But it's a good question. It's a really good question.
Yeah, no, and because like what you're saying is interesting too about like, I wonder if in that instance like anonymity serves because like there's maybe like true freedom, like in knowing that like in the sense of confession, right? Or in the instance of confession, like I know that this priest doesn't know me, doesn't have any ideas about me. I might be sitting face to face with him and I'm just a person, but he sees me as a person. Yeah. And I see him as a person, and that's like that's the only strata that we are able to meet on is personhood.
And that is one of the things that the World Communications Day messages pretty much dwell on in some form or another. Practically exclusively, is how do we see beyond a person's avatar? How do we see beyond how a person presents themselves, to be willing to see them, even if we don't know who they are, to be able to willing to see them. You are a human being, therefore you are worthy of respect. You are worthy of the inherent dignity that's given to you, and therefore I will exercise that. And that is an incredible challenge, because the temptation brought about by the effects of original sin is for me to bring down a watertight door between a relationship, a real lived relationship. And the challenge, I think, of the internet makes it so easy to just kind of slam that door and say, I'll talk to you, but on the other side of this window. Almost like the way we've been living our lives for, quite a while now. But that's the thing, is to be able, no matter what, to be able to see a person as a person and not just simply dismiss them. And boy, oh boy, is it hard. It's hard for us as priests, but it's hard for teachers, it's hard for parents, it's hard for adults who are trying to adult, But again, I go back to almost Blessed Carlo in this notion of, if I'm tempering myself in the way, in the time that I spend and in the attention that I give to various things, that actually helps to humanize me, because I realize I'm a creature and not the creator. And perhaps I then am able to see somebody else as a creature of God as well, as a subject of Almighty God. And so, there's a lot to be there, to be gleaned from that for sure. Do you think we have time for a super short pick of the week? All right, let's do that part of the show that we like to call
the CU Pick of the Week.
All right, it's going to be a lightning round pick of the week because Olivia is really good at these 11th hour. I have a very deep question to ask, so here we go. All right, that's okay. That was a good question. All right, Father Ryan, you're the guest, so what's your pick of the week?
I've been rereading old books. One book that I thoroughly enjoy is Michael Crichton's State of Fear. It turns out to be wildly relevant to the current culture we're living in. It's an excellent book. It's available on Amazon. It's probably available in other places too. State of Fear by the author Michael Crichton.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Kathleen, your pick of the week.
Yeah, I've been looking for ways to unwind and totally unplug. So I've been catching up on the Great British Baking Show. Yes. It is now currently in collection or season 11, but I think I'm on collection 7. Their hosts are Noel Fielding, who I love. He's so strange. And it used to be Sandy Toksvig, but it's now Matt Lucas. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. And of course, the judges are Prue Leith and the excellent Paul Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can see that you'd probably like that for sure.
Yeah.
Paul Hollywood. All right, Olivia, your pick of the week.
My pick of the week is Santa Clara Design.
I know her.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
She's awesome. Yeah, so I have like some of her stickers that someone got me for my birthday on my water bottle, but all of her designs, her prints, like her things that you can actually order, stickers, all of her stuff is really, really beautiful, really well done. It's minimalist, but without being like sacrificing meaning. So,
it's a lot of it is reminiscent of woodcut etchings, which
that's
is
true.
really, really cool.
Really
yeah,
cool.
For sure. My pick of the week, of course, because it's October when we're coming to you, is Inktober. So the way that you can view those is by going to the hashtag. So that's the #, for those of you who are typing it. Hashtag Inktober or hashtag Inktober 2020, and you can do that pretty much on any of the social media outlets. So if you're on Facebook, you can look at that hashtag. If you're on Instagram, that's probably the best place to do it, since Instagram is kind of a visual medium. And then on Twitter too, if you want to see what other artists are doing. I should put a little disclaimer out there. Hashtag Inktober and hashtag Inktober 2020. You get what you get when you type that hashtag in there, because not everybody is a Catholic priest doing Inktober. I'm just putting that up there, right? If you want to see my Inktober drawings, you can go to @DigitalCatholic. That's my handle on pretty much all the social media. Congratulations, everybody! You did a lightning round pick of the week quite well. Very good. And we had a meaningful discussion in 5 minutes, and we did the pick of the week. So how very cool is that? Well, I suppose we should go ahead and start wrapping up the show now, which normally I hear music at this time, but I don't hear it yet. So anyway, the Catholic Underground is made possible by the viewers, the listeners, by the prayer warriors, by the benefactors like you. If you want to become an official Undergrounder today, you can go to CatholicUnderground.com and find out more. You can also help us out by letting others know about us. Remember to like us, to heart us, to star us on your platform of choice. And if the podcasting service that you use to listen to us has a review option, then consider leaving a favorable comment as well. All right, our panelist this episode has been Kathleen Lee at KLee626 on Instagram. Thank you, Kathleen.
Anytime.
Olivia Gulino as @the.real.omg on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank y'all.
Father Ryan Humphries is at FR Humphries on the interwebs. Thank you, Father.
Happy to be here.
Also, I don't think I mentioned him at the top of the show, Albert has been our audio director. Thank you, Albert, very much for sitting in Jeff's chair and doing it so well. Thanks, Albert.
Just keeping the Jeff Star 1 in orbit.
That's right, keeping it in a low Earth orbit. Also, Ed Ball is our video director there in the ball pit. So if you're watching us, that's exactly what it looks like when Ed switches the video. If you're listening to us, well, we hope that it was okay. And the audio is always good with Albert. Jim Hayes is our research assistant. He's got his crew in the lab, and they're always looking things up feverishly for us. You know me. I'm Father Chris Decker. You can find me online at Digital Catholic on Twitter and Instagram. And you have been listening to the Catholic Underground. We are cutting through the noise. You can find that still small voice, and we hope that we've helped you with that today, and we hope to help you with that tomorrow. We'll see you next time.
From the Catholic Underground.